Hey everyone, I'm Lydia from Lydia Design Costumes. Today I'm talking about my Ciri from Netflix's The Witcher. This is what she wears in season 1 for the entire season, which means I got a lot of really great reference shots because she's wearing it every single episode. This piece right here is actually what she wears underneath her beautiful blue cloak. And while the cloak is absolutely gorgeous and the reason I made the costume, I still really want to showcase the bodice here. I think of every costume I have ever made, I may have spent the most time trying to find this fabric. And it's unassuming brown fabric, right? Well, it's not. You want to look up close. It's silk with a ribbed weave, and it has this metallic thread woven in with it. When she moves, you can see the gold threads, and it almost comes off as kind of shiny. So I was like, oh, what shiny fabric would they be using? For the construction of the top, there's a combination of pleats and darts and seam lines. So I started by draping a version on my dress form and trying to get the lines right. And I reused that twill as my boning layer. I put in some light bridgeling boning in it. After I constructed the outer part of the top, I did peplums. In order to get the crisp pleats, I had to steam it like crazy and use a tailor's clapper. I created the button loops out of a cording. I kept it one long single piece to make it easier and so that it would be more stable. Here you can see the inside of the top. I actually sewed through the lining layer into the twill layer to secure the boning, which you can see in the back here. For her undershirt, I didn't have super good reference photos. You can only really see it poking out from under her collar and her sleeve cuffs. But I just did a pretty generic Renaissance undershirt pattern. To make it look a little more realistic, I tea-dyed the fabric. I used a very, very fine linen for this. I also had to add tons and tons of pleats around the neckline, the cuffs, and the stomach area. I also made Dorset buttons by hand, and I hand top stitched all of the seams and the pleats. The other thing about this costume is I had to create the fabric that you see on her sleeves. I used my Cricut to cut out this design from flocked velvet. I actually zoomed in really close to the reference photos and made a vectorized version of it myself that I had to make repeat over a large surface. But yeah, I cut it out and ironed it onto this silk, and it's really nice because it's hard to tell, but it's got like a velvety 3D texture to it. But yeah, it took forever to weed this because there's a lot of little tiny little dots and little pieces in here that you have to pull out. Next up is the pants. They are pants and not a skirt. They're just very wide leg pants. You can see a little bit of a detail near the hemline. There are openings on the sides and a little bit of a pocket. I made them out of a beautiful silk twill I got from Mood Fabrics, and I used a cotton canvas fabric for the detailing around the bottom and sides of the pants. We do get a small glimpse of what she's wearing underneath, so I made a pair of linen wide leg pants that matches the shirt and also has matching Dorset buttons. And now I get to talk about the cloak, the reason why I wanted to make this costume in the first place. I started by making a mock-up out of muslin, and for the hood, which has a really interesting design, I made a small version and then I made a life-size version. The coat is made out of wool that I got from a vintage fabric shop, and I barely had enough left to do this whole project. I even had to add horsehair interfacing to the sleeves to make them look puffier than they actually were because I didn't have quite enough volume. There's also some beautiful soutache detailing going around the hood, down the front, and the bottom of the cloak. I did go down the rabbit hole of trying to find the soutache as maybe a pre-made applique or a lace, but I couldn't, so I had to make it myself. I made the soutache out of a satin that is a very similar color to the coat. I sewed about a 3mm channel into bias strips folded in half, and then turned them inside out by threading through a large needle. With some trial and error, I figured out how to sew it down via machine to water-soluble stabilizer on top of netting. Then I cut them out of the netting and hand sewed them onto the cloak. The last details were handmade Dorset buttons for the sleeve cuffs. Then I made the closure out of craft foam and puff paint glued on top of an existing closure. Ciri starts out with a nice pair of gloves in the first episode, which I did choose to make. I made them out of suede and made my own trim by combining two different trims that I found. We don't get a lot of detail for the shoes that she starts out in, but they do seem to be simple medieval turn shoes. I made the uppers out of faux suede and then glued on handmade leather soles. I chose to do the hairstyle from the first episode. It's pretty simple braid going down the back, and then I made little jewelry bits to go in as well. Alright, well, there it is. That was my Ciri from Netflix's The Witcher Season 1. Bye, everyone. Let's go dress form.